Money. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Ryan Wheless and Peter Lott of Allied Wealth. Ryan, how are you?
I'm awesome. I'm excited to be here today to deliver some great retirement advice to the great folks of Houston.
And I'm excited to be with you today. Peter, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks, Cynthia.
Good. It's so good to see both of you because I know that things have been so extraordinarily busy. Obviously, the television show has been bringing in one caller after the next, booking consultations. I have to ask you, Ryan, anything specifically are people asking right now? Is it about inflation, taxes? What are they thinking?
The biggest fears we're seeing right now is inflation by a mile. It's all over the news. It's a big topic. It's impacting the stock market greatly, causing a lot of volatility, and folks are quite concerned about it.
Absolutely. Peter, what about you? What are you hearing from clients today?
I'm seeing a ton of stuff going on. I'm seeing a lot of clients right now that they're seeing their portfolios decline very quickly. Well, in the last few weeks, they've just seen these huge declines, and they're calling in almost in a panic mode because they don't know what to do because they've been sitting in, you know, a lot of them think they're conservative, but they're really not. They're more aggressive than they thought because they've had this great run up over the last decade, and now they're starting to see a lot of volatility that they haven't seen before.
Wow. Okay. Well, today's topic is very interesting. It's the 6 retirement blunders to avoid. So this is going to be a good one. Ryan, what's the first one on that list?
The first one is being too conservative, right? And so we call it the bank of mattress. Okay. Right? And so, you know, hey, when inflation wasn't a problem and we had really low inflation of, you know, 2019, I think was around 1.8%-ish or 2%, somewhere in that range. Now we're up over 8%. Well, if you're being too conservative and your money is in your mattress, so to speak, you're losing 8% a year while you sleep at night.
Wow.
So being too conservative can actually counteract what you think it's doing for you, and you could actually be in a situation where your dollars don't grow enough to either combat inflation, combat rising taxes in the future. They provide you the income you need to maintain the lifestyle you want to live in retirement. It's a pretty interesting dichotomy.
It is. It is. You know, the people right now, they're seeing that they thought they were going to de-risk their portfolio and buy bonds. Yeah. And that's just not a good path right now. There's other ways to do this that we can show you to alleviate those risks, get those risks out of your portfolio. That way that even though you think you're this great saver and now inflation's eating away at your money each and every single day, you can be in vehicles to combat that.
What would be the problem with bonds right now?
Well, the problem with bonds right now is they're interest rate sensitive, right? So when rates go down, bonds go up. Okay. And they've been doing this for 40 years.
40 straight years.
You can think back in the early 80s, bank CDs were paying 10, 15%, home loans were 10%. All interest rates have really done have gone down over the years till they got to this low, and now they're starting to get rates back up again. And when these rates increase, well, bond values go down. So what historically has been this fantastic investment for the last 40 years is seeing some risks that people haven't seen before.
Well, and sadly, people use bonds to de-risk their portfolios. So usually when the market's falling, your bond values are going up in value to kind of cushion your market losses.
Okay.
But when the markets fall, and bond values are going down because interest rates are rising, it's a double-edged sword. You're losing money on your bonds and your stocks at the same time, which is why people are experiencing so much volatility in their portfolios. And interestingly enough, you would think a lot more people know about these programs, but there are great bond alternatives out there that allow you to have market-like returns, limited to no downside risk whatsoever. The trade-off, though, is you're only going to make about a 4 to 6% return. So you get principal protection, like bonds, like people think bonds actually do, but these programs do give you principal protection. So if you want to move out of a bond position and get into something that allows you to have the safety you're looking for and still get somewhere between a 4, maybe 5, 6% return, those programs exist out there, folks, and we offer them to our clients on a daily basis. And guess what they are? They're called fixed index annuities. Wow, okay. Wow, absolutely.
Interesting.
So, you know, for a long time, annuities have been a kind of a negative thing. People don't like annuities. They hear bad things about them. But when you take a safe money product like a fixed index annuity, you can use it to replace bonds in your portfolio, and you eliminate the interest rate risk of rising rates. You eliminate the downside risk of losing money in your bond portfolio, and you're going to get a bond-like return. It's pretty cool. Oh, and by the way, there's no fees.
No fees?
No fees whatsoever.
Wow, that's impressive.
Pretty cool.
Now, what about paying excessive fees? How can that be a blunder, Peter?
Well, if you're paying too much in fees, right then and there, you're giving it away. A couple of days before the show, we were doing this, sitting here right now, I met with a client that her annual fee was 2.5%.
2.5
every year.
Wow.
On $1 million account, that's quite a bit of money, right?
$25,000 a year.
And that's money that's leaving the portfolio and going into somebody else's pocket. It needs to be going into her pocket. And that's what I told her. I told her it needs to be moving over to you instead of
absolutely. And if you look at fees, I did some calculations here, folks. So $1 million of money grown 20 years at 10% rate of return, paying 2.4% a year in fees grows to about $4.1 million. Decrease the fee from 2.4% down to 1.5%, and the same pool of funds grows to $5 million. That's a $900,000 difference because of fees.
Wow.
Now, listen, everybody needs to make a living in our industry by far, but those fees are absolutely excessive. And it's amazing to me, Cynthia, that the number of people out there have no idea what kind of fees they're paying until they give us a call here on the show and they take advantage of the portfolio X-ray that we offer.
Absolutely. Why is it important to work with a fiduciary as well, Peter?
A fiduciary is going to put, basically what a fiduciary is we're putting your pocketbook ahead of our own.
Okay.
That's essentially what it means to a client, making sure they're in the best investments, but not the best investment for us, meaning making some type of big commission or something like that, like a lot of advisors do, but what's best for the client themselves.
Okay, perfect. Ryan, I should also ask you, of course, what about seeing a statement from Allied Wealth? Is it transparent? Can people see exactly what they're paying?
Absolutely. So one of the things about the being a transparent fiduciary advisor is our clients are required to sign a fee agreement with us. And on their statement every single month, they see fee to advisor right there in black and white. And they're the boss. If they don't like what they're paying or they don't think that they're getting the performance out of their accounts they should be getting for what they're paying us, they're the boss. They can fire us anytime they want to. But the key thing is they have transparency into what they're actually paying us, which is super, super important.
Sure. Well, how can people avoid these 6 blunders? Peter, what's the best advice you can give?
The best advice you can do is you can call in for the retirement financial flight plan. It's going to give us the ability to look at what you're doing. You compare, what's your portfolio, how it performs, what to expect from it. It's going to show you what kind of fees that you're paying, because most people, they don't know.
They don't know.
I can't remember a client, knowing exactly what they paid, and showing them what they pay is a big deal. It's going to show them their risk tolerance and show them basically what their risk tolerance is versus their risk capacity. Meaning, we all know what our risk tolerance is, but what is your risk capacity? How much can you afford to lose in a down market and not have to change your lifestyle? That's a huge one to know, because a lot of people think, well, I can run in and I can afford a 10 or 15% loss, but maybe financially, when their income comes down to getting their monthly check off their investments, they can't afford that.
That makes sense. Well, Ryan, I know that you and Peter have a very special offer to present to the viewers at home today. Why don't we dive into that a little bit further before we open up the phones?
We call our offer that we do on the show the financial flight plan. The reason why we do is that we build into the financial flight plan and retirement plan redundancies. And part of those redundancies are looking at your risk tolerance versus your risk capacity. We want to do a portfolio X-ray so we can really dive down into the risk you're taking currently and the fees you're paying, because you have a right to know those things, and you should know those things. We also want to look at building you an investment plan that matches your risk tolerance and risk capacity, and an income plan to go along with that. And folks, an income plan in your golden years should allow you to go out into the world and spend money in retirement with confidence, even though the stock markets may be down. So to get that plan is super, super easy. All you have to do is call 844-944-7555. Again, 844-944-7555. You can also check us out at onthemoneytv.com. And you notice there's a QR code in the bottom of your screen there. You can click that as well to get access to the financial flight plan.
Ryan, thank you so much. Peter, thank you so much. To the viewers at home, the phone number to call is on your screen, and that number is 844-944-7555. We know you have a lot of questions for Ryan and Peter about how to plan your perfect retirement. They have the answers for you. We're going to take a very short commercial break, but don't go anywhere. We're going to continue with those 6 blunders, so please stay tuned.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only. to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have. By running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
And welcome back to On the Money. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Ryan Wheless and Peter Lott of Allied Wealth. Gentlemen, a great show we're having today, talking about such an important topic, of course, planning for retirement and also avoiding those 6 retirement blunders. So we should keep going on that. It looks like the next one would be mismanaging retirement withdrawals. Ryan, why is that an issue?
You know, it's interesting. We see this happen a lot. People save money in their pension plans and their 401k plans all these years. And all of a sudden, these dollars become available to them. And they roll their dollars over from their 401k plans and their pension plans into an IRA. That's a non-taxable event, by the way. And so they now see these large balances in their accounts, and they know they have access to them. And so a lot of times people manage it well, but a lot of times they don't. And they decide to themselves, you know, one of my dreams was to go out and buy the 80-foot travel trailer and the dually pickup truck and the toy hauler to tow it with and go travel the country. Well, you know, that's mismanaging withdrawals, all right? Those are things that we should do on the front end, meaning if you're going to do those things in retirement, please tell your financial advisor before you do those things, before you retire, not after. All right? Yeah. Because pulling those large sums of money to pay for those things from IRA accounts can be detrimental to your long-term success, not to mention all the taxes you have to pay on those distributions too. So if you're working, right, or you're about to retire, and you're going to go buy the toys, what I suggest that you do is don't mismanage your withdrawals, all right? Instead, work the last 2 years for fun. And what I mean by fun, hey, take all the dollars you're making those last 2 years and put those towards your toys. That way they're paid for in retirement. That way we don't have to worry about it, because I have seen people spend way too much money. And what happens is the more money they spend, the less money they have available to them to produce income. And retirement does not happen without income. It's not about wealth, it's about income.
That's true.
You know, Ryan, I had a client that he calls me, he was brand new in retirement. He wanted to buy the camper and the truck, and he's like, Pete, I need $150,000. And I'm thinking, I wish you'd have told me that a little bit sooner, because, you know, it changes things. You know, that $150,000 that we need to buy the truck and the camper, you know, we add tax to that. Now we're talking, you know, 180, 170 just to pay for this depreciating asset. And I didn't know that. And it would have made a huge difference to know that up front if we're going to go out and buy those toys, which I'm all for. I'm a toy guy myself, and I've got boats myself. But just buy those in a way that where we can afford it, it doesn't throw all the numbers out of whack when we're 6 months into retirement.
Well, the thing about it too, Pete, is that if they take the, I don't know, $200,000 out of the IRA account to pay for the travel trailer and truck, well, the money they're already taking out for income distributions is going to get whacked with taxes too. I mean, we're going to pay a lot of taxes.
Higher tax bracket now.
Even higher tax bracket, which also raises taxes on your Social Security income. So there's a lot of moving parts here that we really need to think about.
Sure.
And if we're not properly thinking about this stuff before we retire, then you're going to have a situation where you may be, you don't have the assets available anymore because you spent them all.
Sure.
And don't be that person. I would hate to have, you know, in my life, I'd hate to be the guy that made it to retirement, and then I blew it because I spent too much money too early. Right?
Absolutely.
Now, Cynthia, to the contrary, there are folks out there who are too concerned. You know, they've been savers their whole lives. So they're having to transition from being a saver to a spender in retirement, and they have a hard time doing it.
Yeah.
And so if that's you folks, you worked all these years to enjoy life, don't be afraid. But that all goes back to having a good financial plan. People that have that mentality, what they really need is a good connection to a good financial plan that matches their risk tolerance, their risk capacity, and meets their income and spending needs. And if they have that and they stay connected with their advisor and get updates on a weekly basis like we provide our clients, they're more than likely to be able to go out and enjoy their golden years more, which is awesome.
I think too, Ryan, they're also seeing that all the volatility, they're afraid to be able to pull out and create that income stream. And when they see we can put a plan together that gets rid of a lot of the volatility, then when they can live through a financial crisis and their income doesn't have to take a hit, things like that, they become more comfortable.
And part of that too, though, Pete, is we got to mathematically quantify that for them. And not only do we mathematically quantify it, we also have to have them live with us for a while, because it takes a while to build confidence and trust. It's an important thing to do.
Sure, absolutely. Peter, what about diversification or de-worstification? What is that? Let's talk about that.
Well, diversification is great for a portfolio because that's going to allow you to weather storms, because while one's down, one may be up and vice versa.
Like your bonds should be up and your stocks are down, or stocks are up and bonds are down. Yeah.
Right. The problem is a lot of times when we do a portfolio analysis, people think that because they've got 50 different investments or stocks or whatever inside their portfolio, they're diversified. Well, oftentimes that's not the case. Oftentimes they could have done this in one or two different positions and been just as diversified as they were what they're doing. So that's something else we're going to be able to do, is see exactly how diversified you are.
Okay.
And see the ups and see how the mechanisms actually work.
People come in and say, hey, Ryan, I've got 20 different mutual fund ticker symbols on my statements. I must be diversified. So when we go into the financial flight plan and go to the portfolio x-ray section of the financial flight plan, what we see is that all these funds are correlated, which means they do the same thing. So that even though they have 20 different funds, they're not diversified at all.
Wow.
And ask them, okay, so if all of your funds do the same thing, when is the last time your current advisor went through all those funds and said, let's throw out all the ones that are expensive and just put the money in the one that's the cheapest one? And they go, that's never happened. I'm like, I'm Ryan Wheless, I'm a fiduciary, I'm looking for a job today.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. I'm sure you hear a little bit of everything. Absolutely.
We do.
So I should ask you, what about people that are, the true diversification, if you will, it has two layers. What are those two layers? Can we talk about those more in detail?
And that's one thing that is really not taught on Wall Street, sadly. The beginnings of diversification is a balanced approach between assets that have risk and assets that have safety. It's that simple.
Okay.
That's where you start. Risk money and safe money. So if you've got $1 million, a balanced approach is having $500,000 at risk and $500,000 in safe investments that can yield you the highest return with principal protection. And there's products out there that do that today, folks. All right. And so, and I'm talking 4 to 6% returns right now today, which are better than bonds. All right, way better than bonds. So to that end, the reality is we in the risk bucket that we have left over, the $500,000 at risk, we still want to use proper diversification. What I mean by that is having money in stocks, bonds, commodities, real estate, international equities, cash, and use diversification on the risk bucket. But there's two layers: balancing risk money and safe money, and then making sure in your risk bucket that money is still diversified across asset classes.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Well, Ryan, I know that you and Peter have a very special offer to present to the viewers at home, and also a very special video that we're going to watch. I'd like you to talk about both of those right now.
We will gladly talk about both, folks. So if anything that we're saying today is resonating with you, please pick up the phone and call us. The number is 844-944-7555. Again, 844-944-7555. And that phone call is going to get you the financial flight plan. We're going to take a look at your risk tolerance, your risk capacity. We're going to build an investment plan that meets that risk tolerance and, more importantly, the risk capacity. We're going to build you an income plan that allows you to go out in your golden years and spend money with confidence even though the markets are down. We're going to build a tax plan. We even talked about taxes today, right? Where taxes are going to be your biggest expense in retirement. We're going to help you draft a health care plan that helps you mitigate long-term care costs as well, and most importantly, a legacy plan for what happens to your assets when you're gone. So to get that plan is super easy. Use the QR code there on the screen. Call us at 844-944-7555. Again, call us at 844-944-7555, and also check us out at onthemoneytv.com. Now, one last thing I want to say is that Pete and I came to this, or live in this country, and we really are true American success stories. But you can't have true American success stories without a great America. And America is the greatest country in the world. And it's that way for a reason. It's that way because of the men and women who have fought and died for our country, and more importantly today, the men and women who continue to serve our country. And so I am an avid supporter of the Mighty Oaks Warrior Foundation. And please take a listen to this great message coming from the Mighty Oaks Warrior Foundation.
Ryan, thank you so much. Peter, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that phone number once again is on your screen. It's 844-944-7555. We'll be right back after this very important and very touching video message.
Many of our veterans feel they need to fight their battles alone. This self-isolation has led to the staggering statistic of more than 20 veterans taking their lives every day. The mission of Mighty Oaks is to eradicate the veteran suicide epidemic and help our warriors change their legacies. We've been able to help over 4,000 veterans and first responders by equipping them with the tools they need to live the lives they were created to live. Our faith-based, peer-to-peer approach has one of the highest success rates of any program available today, offering hope and understanding to those who need it most. By aligning their lives to biblical principles, these men and women are able to lead their families, their communities, and our nation. It's your generosity that can make a difference in the lives of the men and women who have fought for our country and our freedoms. Now that they're home, don't let them fight alone. Learn more at mightyoaksprograms.org.
And welcome back to On the Money. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Ryan Wheless and Peter Lott of Allied Wealth. Ryan, what a wonderful video message, and Peter, of course, too, that we just exposed the viewing audience to. Where can people get more information about the Mighty Oaks program?
MightyOaksWarriorProgram.org is the website, folks. MightyOaksWarriorProgram.org. Please go there and check it out, and please support the great cause, because it's such a mighty cause.
Absolutely it is. Thank you so much for allowing us to play the video again this week. I appreciate that.
Our pleasure.
Getting back to the 6 blunders, let's talk a little bit about the big one right now that everyone's talking about, inflation. Ryan?
So inflation stuck up on us. I mean, I'm looking at a print here from 2018. Inflation was 2.4%. In 2019, it was 1.8%. And we've been using, about a 2.5% annual inflation rate in our retirement plans for nearly 10 years, maybe 12 years. And all of a sudden it snuck up on us. And inflation is important, folks, because it erodes the purchasing power of your dollars over time. And a lot of people think that when inflation happens, that their advisor just kind of moves stuff around and moves money towards asset classes that do well in an inflationary environment. And that's simply not the way it happens. Proven by the fact that, go look at your statements right now. Yeah. Your statements are down. If your advisor's moving stuff around, why are your statements down? Doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah, good
So
point.
your money should be in positions that are in portfolios that are managed to automatically combat inflation, like with ours at Allied Wealth, because we do things based on mathematics. And so when the mathematics are looking at inflation, they go, okay, I want to move money away from the asset classes that do poorly in inflationary environments and move them towards asset classes that do well in inflationary environments. And those asset classes are things like real estate, commodities, Treasury inflation protected securities, and in stocks in big companies like the Dow 30 companies.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for shedding some light on that. Peter, let me ask you a very important question. How does the political arena play into a retirement blunder?
Wait a minute, we're not supposed to talk about politics. Show's over, folks.
Had to bring it up.
It's huge. It's huge. As you've seen, when I look back to the last election, I had clients calling me and saying, Pete, I think we need to get out of the market because Biden's going to get elected. And I said, no, let's hold off on that, because the math isn't telling us that on these portfolios. The indicators that we watch, it's not telling us that. And lo and behold, the market shot up. So people are worried about political risk, and that there is that risk inside of your portfolio there, but you want to news-proof your portfolio. You don't want to have a portfolio that every time you watch the news, this thing is doing this. It's just not comfortable in retirement. Maybe in your younger years, that's okay, but as you get older and you get in that retirement red zone, that's just not a place you want to be. You want to be able to create that income stream that lasts a lifetime. You don't want to have to worry about geopolitical risk, inflation, all these things that go on in a portfolio that just tear it down.
Yeah, and the thing about that, too, is that if you are conservative, you're going to think that if a conservative gets elected to the presidential office of the president, that the market's going to do well. And if you're more on the liberal side of things and a liberal gets elected, you're going to think the market's going to do well because the liberal's in office. And the reality is, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look historically, I go back from 1925 to 2017. It's a 92-year period. It's pretty mind-blowing. So when a newly elected Democrat comes into office, during the election year, the market on average is down 2.7%. All right. During the inauguration year, though, the market's up 22.1%. Okay. pretty good. So I'm like, hey, that sounds great. I want to be with the Democrat, right? So when a newly elected Republican president comes in during the election year, the market's up 17.9%, all right? And then the inauguration year, the market's down 2.6%. So if you look at those disparity in numbers, they're right in line with each other.
Wow.
So the reality is that, yes, shifts do change in the markets when a new administration comes in, but the overall trend of the markets is still higher. So, you know, your political beliefs are important, but please, please, please understand they should absolutely not guide your investment decisions, because I'd hate to be the person that sold out and missed a 17.9% return and got back in to get the 2.6% loss.
Yeah.
So don't let politics influence your investment decisions. It could be a bad way to go. We've seen it time and time again where people pull their money out of the markets, they miss the run up, and it's just one of those things where if you have a proper portfolio that's designed to help mitigate downside risk and maximize upside returns in all markets, you're going to be okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Peter, what it comes down to is just having a good plan in place.
That's what it is. Just knowing what it is, knowing what it looks like, being educated on how it works. So many people don't know how their plan works, and when a client calls in and they want to sit down and talk, the first bit is to get to know you, but the second half of that conversation is education. I think that's just huge. Educate your clients so they know what to expect, how things are working. And they don't need to know, a lot of times they don't get into the nitty-gritty details, but they want a good idea of how things work, and that's through education. That's what we provide here. It's a huge passion of mine to do the educational part. I mean, that's just, I enjoy that the most.
It's kind of funny because when people get with us, they're like, Ryan, you really do enjoy this stuff, don't you? I do. It's numbers, it's fun, I enjoy it. And you know, we have people come in the office, and I had a client came in recently, and we were sitting there in the office adjusting the financial flight plan on the fly. And he just was like, man, this is really awesome. You guys really know what you're doing with this stuff, and I really appreciate this. I got more out of this meeting than I did with the other advisors I met with, and they're going to come. We've earned their business as a result of that.
That's fantastic.
And, you know, we're looking to do that for you folks. So if you're at home right now and anything we're talking about has resonated with you, please take advantage of the financial flight plan. It's a complete, total, holistic plan that looks at your risk tolerance, your risk capacity. We do a portfolio X-ray to make sure your risk tolerance, risk capacity meets your current portfolio. We want to build for you an investment plan if it doesn't, an income plan that allows you to go out your golden years and spend money with confidence in retirement, even though the stock markets may be down. To get that plan is super, super simple. All you got to do is click the QR code there on the screen. Check us out at onthemoneytv.com. Again, onthemoneytv.com. And lastly, we make it easy for you to get in touch with us, by the way. The phone number, 844-944-7555. Again, 844-944-7555.
Ryan and Peter, thank you so very much. To the viewers at home, thank you for spending time with us. Be safe, be happy, be blessed. We'll see you next week.